I'm feeling important. I might break out into song at some point in this presentation. I don't think I've ever had a wireless mic before, so this is a significant move for me. You're much better behaved than your children. Normally I have to do a slow clap or raise the hand in the air like an elementary school teacher or a camp director just to silence the crowd. But thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm delighted to see everybody. I'm sorry about, I guess on your schedule it said that this talk would be in the chapel. And it's not in the chapel. So it's here in the Chelsea Morrison Theater. And I will tell you that this will be a visually scripted talk and a verbally unscripted talk. So I just wanted to challenge myself a little bit with you today to see how I might do with an 8th grade PowerPoint presentation that I put together. And then just a few things that I think we ought to talk about while we have some time together. So the first thing that I want to do, I don't know everyone in the room deeply well yet. I know many of you, not all of you. My name is John Downs. I have the honor and privilege of being Millbrook's 7th head of school. And a little bit about my background. I'm a proud graduate of Millbrook School, class of 1998. And then the quick resume is Millbrook to Middlebury to Newark Academy in Livingston, New Jersey, to Providence Day School in Charlotte, North Carolina, a couple of graduate schools, Breadloaf School of English and Harvard School of Education in between, and then moved up to Millbrook in 2010, back to Millbrook in 2010, where I became the director of admission. And then after 7 years, people realized that Meg Grover was a lot better than I, and so I got a promotion. You know how that works. And so I became assistant head of school and oversaw admissions, communications, and development. And then in 2019, I was appointed to be the acting head of school. And what I didn't know at the time is that I was on trial. The board was looking potentially for the successor to Drew Casertano, who was the head of school here for 31 years. And I survived. And ultimately was appointed in that January. And then Drew and I ran the school, when you think about it, from the spring of 2020 through the first year of COVID, and now I'm in my 4th year. And I will tell you, it's special for me to be in my 4th year. I feel a little more grounded, a little more comfortable, because every student in the school, if you think about it, it's a 4-year school. Every student in the school only knows me as head of school, and that's the first time that students have only known a head other than Drew Casertano in 35 years. So as I've said to him, I said to our board of trustees, he casts a huge shadow. He saved this school, he transformed this school, and it's important not to run away from shadows, but to dance with them like Peter Pan. So that's the way I look at it, and I'm delighted to be with you here today. What I'd like to do to begin, just to get you juiced up a little bit. You know the game Name That Tune? Okay, we're going to play a little Name That Tune. And I want to give you a little context. So people ask me all the time, John, what surprises you as head of school? And my answer is everything. I work with teenagers, okay? When the boys in Farmhouse buy construction grade wrapping so that they can build a steam room in the bathroom, I am surprised. Okay? When the boys in Case, knows the theme of gender here, when the boys in Case have a skillet the size of my car hood and they're cooking steak and eggs in the laundry room and think that they've created an air system that flows all of the smoke out of the dorm, and obviously did not, which is why this fire alarm goes off, I'm surprised. So, I'm surprised all the time. And they're also good surprises. I think back 4 or 5 years ago when everyone was in masks, when we couldn't assemble as a community, and we lost one of the powers of Millbrook School, which is our community. And now we're back, and we're in assemblies, we're in this room, we're in chapel together experiencing this place. And one of our traditions for a long period of time, which was really brought to us by Cam Hardy, who's up here, Reverend Hardy, is to begin our assemblies with some kind of music to just ground ourselves. So one of my surprises this year is that at 4 separate occasions, the entire school, without exaggeration, broke into song. And it was incredible. If any of your children told you this, if they have told you it, can I see hands? So you're all in the same boat. Your children don't talk to you. There it is. So 4 different occasions, which I will tell you as now I'm knocking on the door of a quarter century in independent schools. These are special moments when a school kind of comes together and spontaneously through song. So I'm going to play for you the 4 songs. And if I see your hand go up, you're going to have to name the song. And if you get it right, you get a prize. Okay? So first song.
Hey Jude. Hey Jude.
Hey Jude, the Beatles, 1968. There it is. And there's a theme to these prizes. There you go. So, Will Dorr, Brian Coughlin, Josiah and Hezi, so a couple of students, faculty, played Hey Jude before Eric Kennedy's Chapel Talk, which was in this theater. And it rocked the school in the best of ways. So they play Hey Jude, and it's the first time I've seen at Millbrook, whether as a student or as an adult, the music before the talk receive a standing ovation. The whole school sing na 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 na. Hey Jude, Jude, Jude. Okay, all right, I'll stop there. Next song.
Linger by the Cranberries.
Wow. Okay, I'm going up. Okay, 1993, Linger by the Cranberries. I was 14 years old then. I'm a child of the 70s. I lived 6 weeks in 1979. So, Cranberries at Matty O'Brien's coffee music shop last Saturday night in the barn. We had about 150 students, and this was played, and I couldn't believe it. So the school knew a song from 1968, and then 150 students top of the barn singing Linger by the Cranberries with their, actually this, I don't mind when the phones come out like this, with the lights on and they're waving. It was a pretty awesome moment. Okay, next song.
Sound of Silence.
This is the sound of silence. Simon and Garfunkel? Tech difficulty? I actually want you to know these songs, so then you can talk about them with your children. No. What is it? What's the name of the song? Has anyone got the name?
Yes.
It's close. I'm going to go here. It says, no, When I Was Your Man, Bruno Mars. So, Devin Bahia is from Vancouver. Is his parents here? Okay, Devin from Vancouver. In his first 2 weeks at school, I'm walking out of the dining hall, and you know, at the atrium in the long hallway, there's a piano. And Devin is actually, he's playing Moonlight Sonata, which was utterly depressing, but he's a beautiful pianist. And I said, Devin, you know, we do this thing called Monday Morning Melodies. We ever do it? And he said, sure, I'll do it. And so in his 3rd week at Millbrook School, he sat down at the piano, played Bruno Mars, When I Was Your Man, and the whole chapel. So this is 2012. It makes sense to me now, but 2012, this song was released. Whole chapel singing together this song. Really powerful moment for a new student. All right, and our final song. Sweet, oh, there it is. All right, Crow Hop. Get up there, up. Okay, so Mr. Coughlin took the beginning acoustic guitar class, and then someone was on the trumpet.
That was my son.
Oh, yeah, so you knew. Oh, inside job. So good. No, Ezra. Yeah. So, okay. So Ezra's on the trumpet, and Jacob Deutsch is singing. Jacob Deutsch has never sung in front of the school ever. Actually, a pretty good singer. And the whole chapel sings "Sweet Caroline." So just a little warm up, just to kind of get you moving. Wanted to share those moments with you because there's a lot that I can talk about with the state of the school. When I really get the warm and fuzzies in my heart about what kind of experience we're providing, that our children get to be in a community together and feel comfortable enough, excited enough to be a little silly, to sing out loud, I think there's kind of no better illustration of community. So there's that. So I want to move, where am I going to next? So I'm going to move to my agenda. By the way, when I was the acting head in the fall of 2019, they gave me 15 minutes for the State of the School address. And now I get an hour. And we're already 15 minutes in, so I don't know if that's because of my poor time mismanagement or it's because we actually want to spend a little more time together. Here's what I want to cover. So I just want to actually express a little bit of appreciation to you, parents and guardians. Then it's always good to ground ourselves in Millbrook's mission. And everything at this school is rooted in our mission. A few things that are on my mind, immediate and then long term. Then I want to spend a little time on Millbrook's vision, which I don't think I've spent a lot of time with our entire parent body about. So I want to talk a little bit about Millbrook's vision, and then we'll end with Millbrook's roots, and then see if we have some time for questions, answers if I have them, and then maybe a little conversation together. Does that sound all right? Okay, so that's the agenda. That's what we want to do. First slide, please. So that's a real picture from a week ago with the Northern Lights on our quad. I actually spent 2 summers in Juneau, Alaska in my 20s and became familiar with the Northern Lights. I've never seen them here at this latitude. And I will tell you that my daughter's sitting right here. She has a day off of school because it's parent-teacher conference day. And her name is Aurora because that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in nature. And you should have seen, you like that, Ro? It's true. She knows the story. But you should have seen your children last Thursday night. They were out sort of slack-jawed looking up at the sky. And actually Kelly Kwok from Hong Kong ran up to me and shook me and said, "Mr. Downs, you have to," I'm looking at Stephen, her father, "you have to turn off all the lights on campus. It's going to be a much better view." And I was like, I have some powers here as head of school. I don't even know how to find the light switch in my own home, much less, like, it's not on an app on my phone. Boom! Millbrook lights are out. Albus Dumbledore is here. I wanted to share that picture with you, which I know we posted on social media, and begin by just a genuine thank you. I want to thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart, from our faculty, from our staff, from our alumni body, from our board of trustees, for your sacrifice and for your investment in a Millbrook education, for your belief in Millbrook School, and for value in boarding school. So fewer than 0.5% of children in the United States go to boarding school. It's about 44,000 kids. So it's an extraordinary privilege when you have the opportunity and choice to go. And I believe it's important for me as the head of school to look you all in the eye and just say thank you. Because I know that if you're sitting in one of these seats, you're making a sacrifice, you're pushing hard so that your child can have this kind of experience. And I will tell you, on behalf of the whole faculty, to be able to work here in this beautiful school with a wonderful mission and a big, bright future, and with all of your children, we are deeply, deeply grateful. So I begin with a heartfelt thank you, and just accept it, okay? So thank you. All right, next slide. Our mission. I get made fun of a lot by our faculty. They say I talk about it too much. It is our compass. It is our purpose. It is the very blood beat of the school. Everything that we do, every program that we want to design, every building that we're thinking about building, every teacher that we hire, it all comes through the mission. And Drew, in 31 years, built an endowment from $3 million to $75 million, quadrupled the square footage of this campus, doubled the size of the student body and the faculty. This is his greatest gift to the school. When he took over in 1990, it was 3 pages long. And I know missions can sometimes sound like one of my colleagues who was a longtime head of school. He calls it edubabble. The sort of educational words that just come up in every single mission statement or, purpose or vision statement. This really matters. In a community where every student is known and needed, Millbrook prepares its students for college and lives of meaning and consequence by instilling the values of respect, integrity, service, stewardship of the natural world, and curiosity. It's our beacon. It guides everything that we do. And so I want to start with that. Next slide, please. State of the school. I think it's thriving. And if you look at the sort of measurables, you'd see it. So last year we hit 800 applications, first time in school history. Meg and the team had to work really hard hosting maybe even more than 800 visitors on campus. For roughly, we had a big class come in this year, about 125 students. This is a sign of good times. People want to be at Millbrook School, and they want their children to be at Millbrook School. Participation in the annual fund, all-time high. So I think we started the year out with the goal of 2.4 or 2.5. Then we moved it to 2.65 because we have a CFO who always pushes. And we have a new director of advancement, didn't know how to push back. And she crushed it with her team. And I think that number is off. We were a little higher, weren't we?
2.767.
Yeah, 2.767. I'm taught as a head of school to be mostly right, just not precisely wrong. So you can take that one. Mostly right, not precisely wrong. But best annual fund in the history of the school. Thanks to many of you in the room for participating. As you probably know, this is 10% of our operating budget. What we spend individually on every student is actually more than the tuition dollars. And the annual fund really matters. So thank you for your participation in the annual fund. Our endowment's at $75 million. That is at a peak for the school, and it's woefully under a lot of our competitors, which I'll talk about in a bit. Our faculty are committed to our mission. Our board chair asked me in a couple meetings ago, John, do you think the faculty actually come here for the purpose and mission of Millbrook? And you know what my answer was? I don't think they're coming here for like the vast school choices or the grocery stores that are 30 miles away, or the one stoplight in town. They're not coming here for the hustle and bustle, although Brooklyn has pretty much moved to the Hudson Valley since COVID. But they come here because they believe in this school. And I'll talk a little bit more about faculty in a bit. But there is a national crisis with teaching faculty, with teachers. Ed schools are all lower enrolled than they've ever been. Teachers are dropping out of public and independent school education systems in record numbers. And it's a hard time to be a teacher. So if you're going after the captain of Williams College soccer team to come into education, he's thinking, oh, okay, so I can go teach a discipline that I liked, have kids not listen to me, have the nation scrutinize whether or not I'm indoctrinating children, and then everyone want a copy of my syllabus so they can decide whether that curriculum's good enough for them or not. All for what? $42,000 a year? No. I was a former baseball player in my past life and captain of the Middlebury baseball team, and their head coach, Mike Leonard, regularly tells me, John, I'm dying to get you up here to talk with our kids about education, but yeah, the whole senior class this year, they all want to go into private equity. I'm like, yep, that sounds about right. So it's a challenge, and our faculty come committed to the mission. We're going to talk about them in a little bit at greater depth. Graduates prepared for college. Shannon, her team, Natalie's team. When I travel, I often drop in, and so it's a little anecdotal. But what I regularly hear from our graduates is they walk away with Millbrook with a sense of who they are, with better time management skills than their peers in college, with a better sense of self-advocacy. They know how to go to office hours, and they know how to live with other people in a residential life setting. And those skills alone, and then when you go and get into writing and history and mathematics, our students feel very, very prepared for college. We're probably due for another study, which we do kind of every 5 to 10 years, to see how they're doing in college, and actually put some quantifiable data next to the qualitative that I just shared. But really in a good place here. Strong academic program, which you all witnessed today. Athletics that are competing all throughout New England in the NEPSAC circles, and often we're punching far above our weight in terms of numbers. An art program, as I stand here in Chelsea Morrison Theater and Holbrook Art Center, that is second to none. I mean, truly, if you just took art courses, 6 art courses every year at Millbrook School, you could not exhaust our program. That's a commitment to the arts. And then a residential life program that we're going to spend some time after my State of the School with Student Life Office and hear a little bit about our residential life program, which I think is truly second to none. And we have an alumni body that's more and more active, not just in donating, which is important for the future of the school, but in giving their time, wanting to give back a little bit of their experience and expertise. Which I'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, next slide. Okay, so Lice baby. Okay. I don't even have to change the lyrics of the song to make it, so stop, collaborate, and listen. Lice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly, flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow. I don't even have to do any work with the song. I just have to put an L, like, instead of ice. So yeah, that was a great way to start Parents' Weekend. It's actually flying back from LA, and I get the call from Anna Birnbaum and the team, you're not gonna like this. And yeah, so I want to talk about this opportunity. And actually genuinely say thank you to all of you. I think most parents of students this age, of children this age, have gone through summer camp or elementary school experiences where lice is involved. Our kids were spectacular. It's the first time, so in 2014, we had to do all school testing with lice. And so it's been a decade. I hope it's longer than a decade to the next one. And honestly, the kids were great. You know, it's easy to sort of freak out and get dramatic about the thing. I'm worried as I'm coming back to school yesterday going, oh gosh, we're going to have half the enrollment that we should have because everyone's going to want to. But everyone was great, and thank you for your support. And we'll continue to communicate. We are going to test the school next Thursday, just when everybody gets back, to make sure that we're lice-free and can move on. By the way, my first concert ever was MC Hammer at the War Memorial in Syracuse, New York. I was in 5th grade, and it was warmed up by Vanilla Ice and In Vogue. So, thought I'd probably share that with you. Want to talk about 2 subjects, sort of hit on them with you, and share what we discussed as a faculty, and I have a slight apology. We end the school year, and we have to wrap up school, and we have all these ideas, and we can't fit them all into the meetings. Students leave, we got about a week of meetings, then we have alumni reunion that weekend, and then our faculty deservingly, when you work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with other people's teenagers, you need your time off. And so that's part of my job, is to protect that time. And we weren't able to get to the cell phone conversation. But what was great over the summer is that there was so much buzz, 9 states, putting rules and regulations into legislation, a couple of peer schools that your children would know as notable schools having kind of community norms and regulations. So it wasn't like we were just kind of out there making up this idea of let's see if we can limit cell phone usage. Faculty at the very beginning of the year in late August, we had a great conversation, probably an hour and a half or so, where we felt like we had total consensus and buy-in. And so when I sent the email to all of you, I got 78 responses back, and this always makes me nervous. There really wasn't any dissent. Everyone was just like, yes, please, thank you. And my apology is, we actually thought that email was going to you and your children, and it didn't go to your children. And so that caused a little bit of a traffic jam when they arrived at school. I won't go into all of the big why now, but if you haven't seen my convocation address at the beginning of school this year, that's all I talk about. It was for your children so they can understand, whether they agree with me and the rest of the school or not, why we want to try to limit cell phone usage. And I thought I'd share with you today just a very brief passage. So I was handed this book. Do you know this book, Tiny Beautiful Things? Cheryl Strayed, she writes a column called Dear Sugar. So I sort of I read this entirely on the plane on the way home. It was so good. And she's a columnist with no real credentials. She's just a brilliant writer and super insightful. And people write in with real big world problems and some things that are just petty. And she responds. And I thought you might enjoy this because I think it captures some of the challenge we have. And I'm saying we as parents. Okay, so the writer writes in, Dear Sugar, would you insist your kids take a cell phone and call you often if they went on a backpacking trip of a week or longer? Signed, Worried. And she writes, Dear Worried, I would not. And then I would spend my days in a dazzlement of worry, wondering if they were okay. I would reassure myself by imagining them sitting on the bank of a river deep in the wilderness, watching the water shimmer past and thinking thoughts one can only think when one is sitting on the bank of a river in the wilderness, watching water shimmer past, and I'd be so damn glad they did not have their cell phones. I would tell everyone I know, my kids are on a backpacking trip and they do not have their cell phones. And I would feel like the incredible mom I had anticipated I'd be a great percentage of the time than I have turned out to be, because I would know that this is the right way, the bold move, the character building, no helicopter insight approach to parenting. I would not make my kids take cell phones on a backpacking trip because I know the wilderness is good medicine. And cell phones reverse that medicine by sucking the spirit out of our souls. Because I know that it is only in going without cell phones and being disconnected that my children will find a connection deeper than anything anyone can teach them. That in not requiring my kids to repeatedly check in with me or their dad while they're venturing into wild places, I'm helping them grow and find their strength and figure out who they are. I would not make my kids take cell phones and then I'd lie in bed, unable to sleep, because I'd be furious with myself for not making my kids take their cell phones. I would curse myself for not insisting that they call me from whatever very, very far, inaccessible, very dangerous place in the wilderness they might be at the very moment, with God knows what's happening to them. I'd then reach for my cell phone, which sits less than a foot from my head on my nightstand every night of my mother-loving life, and I would Google statistics about whether more people died in the wilderness before the invention of a cell phone or after the invention of the cell phone. And an hour later, I would set my cell phone down and I'd lie in bed thinking of my beautiful and brave children. I'd silently send my love to them across the universe in the way people have sent their silent love across the universe to the people they love throughout all of time. And I would know in my heart that they had received it and I would be at peace. Yours, Sugar. I thought I'd share that just because it spoke to me. There's not a perfect answer. It's complicated. It's nice to feel tethered. It's nice to know. It's nice to check in. And one of the great gifts, the counterintuitive acts of love that you've given your children and Millbrook School is that you trust us to be with them. And so far, cell phone policy, I think it's been working pretty well. I'd be interested what your children tell you. And I hear it all over. I mean, I hear some that say, this is a prison, how could you do this to us, Mr. Downs? And then I hear some that say, you know what, I actually feel less anxious because I'm not going to check my phone at the moment. So this space, the chapel, the dining hall, the bricks, and then during the academic day we ask phones to be in rooms, but those have been the sacred places so that we can find a little more balance with how we interact with tech. The second conversation we had as a faculty, which was really good and healthy, was about managing school in a contentious presidential election year. And what I called it with our faculty is, let's break the ice. And we can say Trump and Harris in the room. It is a school, and we can talk a little bit amongst ourselves about the challenges and the fears that we have as faculty members at Millbrook School as the world scrutinizes schools and just about everything for that matter. We used a framework, if you've heard of this. So John Austin, the head of Deerfield, and 8 other heads of schools got a grant from the E. Ford Foundation. And the framework really is a commitment. So it's a commitment to expressive freedom, to disciplined nonpartisanship, and to intellectual diversity. It's a great document. There's all sorts of resources through the National Association of Independent Schools. And I will tell you, the collective wisdom of our faculty is fascinating. So we had faculty members who've been teaching here at Millbrook for 44 years. They could talk about every single 4-year election cycle and what it was like on campus and how we helped. It's really about 25% of our students that are can be registered voters. But how we'd help kids process, develop their own points of view, build upon those points of view, and remain principally neutral. And then we had a brand new teacher, I will not say her name, but a brand new teacher who raised her hand and said, Mr. Downs, she still calls me Mr. Downs despite the fact that I say, please call me John. And Mr. Downs, how are we supposed to model civil discourse if the adults in our world and everything that our children see is not civil discourse? And I said, welcome to teaching. So I will share with you a great bumper sticker just to continue to break the ice. I typically don't like the bumper stickers I see. I have to shield my children's eyes and ears. But I'm driving the other day on Route 44, and there's a truck, and it says, you don't need a bumper sticker to show your political points of views. I already know what they are. You drive a Subaru. And it was a Chevy truck, of course. And I'm thinking, that's crazy. And then a Subaru drives by and it says Harris Waltz. And then I'm like, this is crazy. So car brands are political? This is where we are. I don't have the answers, but we have... we stay committed, and I think independent schools are fabulous at creating spaces, classrooms, where good, strong debate with substantiated evidence, fact-checking, etc., can happen. And that's all I've ever known independent schools to be. Actually, the beacon of sort of training students to work with one another and push one another and see from other points of view. So really proud of what we're doing here, and I would say independent schools in general are really good at this. Okay, next slide. All right. This picture Alex Pearson took of me at third form reading when I was, this was years ago. I had to sort of lay down the law with the third formers, and so he says this is when this is when I'm most condescending. So, enduring opportunities. Look, this is a world as anywhere you look. You see more fragmentation, you see more loneliness, you see more division. And I'm going to look you all right in the eyes and say, I honestly think places like Millbrook are the antidote. I do. I mean, the mission statement that I read you, what's the antidote for fragmentation? It's community. It's to actually be a part of something, not to do it alone. And what's the antidote for loneliness? It's to be known and needed. It's actually that people will know you and that you feel you have a real and meaningful responsibility within a community. That's the heart of our mission. what's the antidote for division or even divisiveness? It's community, it's known and needed, it's feeling prepared for something, and then it's actually holding on to core values. I've said to all of your parents, if they've come to Grandparents' Day, if they're still around Grandparents' Day, I say, yeah, we do indoctrinate our kids in our core values. You must be respectful at Millbrook School. You must think about what integrity means to you. You must serve. You must think about being a steward of the natural world, and I want our students to be curious. That's the antidote for the problems. So faculty retention, I sort of briefly touched on that. You know what's really interesting about teaching faculty at independent schools and in boarding schools, and then at Millbrook in particular? It's not really salary, benefits, compensation packages that keep them here. Like you got to be in the ballpark in terms of our peers and our competitors. What keeps teachers is the opportunity to learn. They are lifelong learners. That's what they want. So we've been committed to increasing our professional development program, to having evaluation system, but a growth and a renewal system on campus so that our faculty continue to believe in this place, continue to grow in this place, because that's very much on my mind and on the minds of heads of school everywhere. And then finally, the status quo. Status quo at Millbrook's pretty good, but we have to continue to aspire. We have to aspire, we have to grow, we have to regularly think about how we can be the most excellent version of ourselves. And so that's what I want to talk about next. So if we go to the next slide. This is this is an oil painting that's in the living room of Woody Lynn. He's class of 1972. He was on our board of trustees, I don't know, maybe 15 years, and chaired our investment committee, and his two children came to Millbrook School as if they had a choice. When that painting's in your living room, you know where you're going. And that's actually a very accurate view if you go on the northwest side of Ski Hill. It's pretty much what it looks like. So our vision is that we're synonymous with excellence and belonging in everything that we offer. Our mission, program, plant are essential, enduring, widely known as an extraordinary, ideal-sized boarding school in the United States of America because we simultaneously prepare students for college and lives of meaning and consequence while we preserve and celebrate the precious years of childhood. So I along with my senior leadership team, our TAC team, and our board of trustees, wrote that statement. That's our vision statement. I think one of the distinguishing differences that I do want to point out from mission is that I think this is more and more important in high schools, maybe more than ever. That schools that are excellent schools are beginning to act more and more like a college. And it's push, push, push. Grind, grind, grind. Rigor, rigor, rigor. Now that's good. I like that we have high standards here and that we continue to raise a bar, and they only get to be 15 once. And so it's really important as a community that we find moments, and that's why I wanted to start with the singing. That you have these moments where you just get to feel like a child. You get to be adults and deal with all the problems that we're dealing with later in life. Okay, next slide, please. So really the vision and some of the things that we want to execute are the 4 Ps. Okay, so in 2031 we turn 100 years old. Program, people, plant, finances. There we go. All right. Next slide, please. So I sat in my office and I just started pulling off the websites and with Jennifer Costello, my executive assistant. Actually, I just lied. Jennifer did it. But I said, just pull up some people kind of beginning here, mid-career. And I was looking at this saying, you know, every day I think about how do I keep them here? These are incredibly talented human beings with unbelievable educations, passion, middle of their career, loving teaching and coaching and dorm duty and being on a boarding school campus. And so I think to myself regularly, like, how do we keep these people here? How do we bring more faculty that have the spirit of this group? And by the way, I could probably interchange this slide with another dozen people and another dozen people and another dozen people. I'm very proud of our faculty. And this has got to be top of mind. So this right here, Mr. Poling wrote in 1928 before the school was a school. And it was the very first part of his business proposal. So he was meeting with the Flaglers of Standard Oil, looking to build a school roughly 90 miles away from New York City. And he had a plan, he had a vision for the school. And the very first thing, the preface for the vision is, the first principle to be kept in mind is this, that bricks and mortar and money and even sound educational theory are no substitutes for the personalities of the teachers. And that the spirit of the institution, its ultimate value, will ultimately depend upon the quality of men on the faculty. I actually changed that on an alumni weekend. I said men and women on the faculty, because I just wanted to modernize it, and I got called out. He says there's no way that he wrote that because it was an all-boys school, and it was mostly like Paul Giamatti sort of figures here that you know, if you've seen the movie. So this is top of mind. How do we keep, retain? And I think it's professional development. It's giving good quality places to live. It's creating familial atmospheres so that our faculty can do the work that they want to do. All right, next slide, please. And then program. Right now, we are working internally on the portrait of a Millbrook graduate. We're doing, if you know or you're familiar with a curriculum mapping exercise, so it's essentially taking all content, all skills, thinking about the race course. So if you know the Latin roots of the word curriculum, it is race course. It's moving through with obstacles. What does that look like for a 4-year student, a 3-year student? I'm in early conversations with our assistant head of school and academic dean, Jarrett Clark, about what does the summit of each discipline look like? So if you're really to push and achieve at the top at Millbrook School, what does that look like? Because then if you start there, you can kind of understand the levels in each discipline. And so I think Blaine is probably the best articulation of a summit in a discipline, 10 to 15 page interdisciplinary research paper that just about the whole senior class writes through their history classes, and then they submit it to the department, and then the department picks the top, 8 to 10 finalists, and then we have an outside professor come to Millbrook School and they pick the winner. It's an incredible exercise, and we have published Blaine essays everywhere, and there's a winner every year, and at graduation we celebrate that winner. Independent science research. Some of you have children who are doing some amazing work in independent science research, and obviously we have a campus and facilities and a zoo to be able to inspire some of that. Unmatched service and learning opportunities. We've got 33 community services here. We did an audit of our service opportunities, and we have we have so many leadership positions on our campus, and I don't know that we articulate it that well to the outside world. And then really important to me that we have an athletic and art range that inspires and prepares. And what I mean by that as we think about the vision and being the very best version of ourselves is that someone can come here and play high school athletics and enjoy it, whether that's thirds, JV, or varsity. And if you really want to excel in that sport, whether it's squash or basketball, and you want to play collegiate level, that you are going to be prepared. And then we have, everyone in schools, part of the edubabble world, is talking about sort of signature programs. And I would call these sort of extension programs. Millbrook Engage, we had 17 students partner with nonprofit firms this past summer, earn a paycheck, and pursue a passion. You should check out that chapel talk online. Our alumni summits in the 3rd year of what I think will be an annual summit where we invite 20 to 25 alumni back to campus who have want to share their career path with your students. We run a conference-style day, and their shared experience is that they lived in Clark and Abbott and Harris or wherever it may be. Some of them have had the same teachers that have been here for a couple of decades, and then they talk about how they ended up at Netflix or LinkedIn or as a head of school or a host of other careers. And then I was just talking with the family today about the zoo. This is just unique. That's the definition of unique. You're the only one. And if you get an opportunity to work in the zoo, not that I want to push a collegiate angle, but nobody else is writing that essay. No one. So those who are interested in the zoo, zoo sciences, and are partnering with AZA in terms of conservation efforts, that's what we're thinking about with program. Next slide, please. Finances. We got a clock in the dining hall. Pretty excited about it. All the kids were saying, well, yeah, I don't have my cell phone. I don't know what time it's going to be. I said, a watch is $3.99 on Amazon, or learn how to tell time. By the way, just a little straw poll of the student body. It's about 20% don't know how to read a clock. I mean, smart kids, but we got some work to do. It's my daughter Finley there. So what we're looking at 2031 is $45 million in new endowment, which would bring us to $120 million. We have a 4.35% annual draw, which is on a 12-quarter trailing average, which is our smoothing mechanism. So when the markets go up or down, that we can be disciplined about that draw. That goes immediately in the operating budget. And you get to 120 million, there's a couple things that happen. One, we're then roughly drawing about 5.1 to something like that annually into our operating budget. That means that actually financial aid is sustainable. That means that we have some opportunities of growth if we wanted to add a teacher or two, or be more competitive with compensation and benefits for our people. It means we can take care of our plant. It'll also put us, so $100 million right now, only 2% of independent schools have an endowment of over $100 million or more. So it puts us in rare company, and I will tell you, I want to be in that company. I think Millbrook deserves to be in that company. And if you were in the college counseling presentation this morning, I heard Shannon Vollmer say in the opening, she was talking about UPenn's $20 billion endowment, and how when you go to that campus, everything imaginable is there. What a luxury, what a privilege, and that can do so much for our school. And I think as we move towards 2031, we're going to see an annual fund that's ambitious and that pushes us to stretch of about $3 million or more a year. So next slide. We've got some really cool plans, so I'm going to zip through them. How am I doing with time? Okay, everybody good? Okay, I'm going to zip through them. These are exciting photographs. Architecture plans. Some are conceptual, so some we have literally no design, but it's just a thought. And then some are actually designed and can move to construction documents when we raise the money. So let's go. So farmhouse. Anyone here, kids live in farmhouse? Yeah. Okay, that's not what we want at Millbrook School. It's fine, it functions, it by no means is the form and aesthetic of Millbrook School. Just a little history on farmhouse. When at the very beginning of COVID, we said, okay, we got to lower the density in dorms. We got to spread them out. What do we need? And we need a place to quarantine. So we rented a trailer to quarantine, and then we had this 12-piece single-wide stitched together, 40 bedrooms, etc. We still have it. And we need it because our boarding population moved up, our day population stayed stagnant, which actually I think is right where we want to be. And we need a new boys' dormitory yesterday. So the two thoughts on boys' dormitories, these are totally conceptual. That something like that out near the farmhouse, north of the dining hall, okay? And then go back, sorry, Jen. And then this would be kind of our in the same aesthetic of a lot of the rest of campus, northwest of the dining hall. So this is Koningsberger Hall. And then this is the amphitheater that's behind the chapel. And so this would be out kind of, and Burton would be right back in here. So it would actually round out a quadrangle behind the chapel and allow all of campus to flow that way. It would also bring 4 new faculty homes and units, which is great because you want to have attractive homes attached to dorms so that faculty want to live in dorms and not like Paul Giamatti's apartment in the holdovers, okay? So we'll go to the next. So those are and I'll stop. We've just conceptually, we've raised $6 million so far on the dormitories. Our goal is to raise what we think it's going to be $12 to $15 million, and our goal is to raise that by the end of this year so that we can move to actual plans, to construction documents, to put a shovel in the ground by next August, September, and then have a dorm ready in 2 years, so a brand new boys' dorm. It's fun talking with architects about a boys' dorm. They always say, beautiful but durable. I'm the middle child of 5 boys, so as you get to know me, that makes so much sense to me. Durable, not too precious, but fits in our class. What'd you say? Yeah, exactly. Next slide. All right, this is exciting stuff. So let me just orient you. These are actual architecture plans. So I've been thinking a lot about this facility, which is where all of our athletics are housed. And I would really call it truly a community center, a center for physical, spiritual, and even mental health. And what we're looking at is almost a complete renovation of this facility. So this would be new, and I'll get to it. This would be new, and then internally we would renovate. So, and then over here, we would move our tennis courts, which are currently right here. And we would have 8 outdoor tennis courts with maybe potential of a bubble or something in the future, but right between our baseball field and turf field. So, next slide. This is from the back of Case Hill. So this would be a weight room. So all the heavy stuff downstairs, all the cardio, ab stuff up here, and it would look east. So you see a lot of mirror of architecture on the campus, but it would look east, which is amazing. We see this room is filled in the morning at Millbrook School. And no longer is it just like college-bound athletes working out. Like the whole cast and crew of Trap works out. Like everybody is into it these days, and so we need this space pretty badly right now. Okay, next slide. So this is what it would look like inside. So heavy stuff downstairs and then go upstairs. And imagine a 6 a.m. sun coming up over here, Millbrook School, pretty special. So next slide. I'm going to go through quickly. This is the current hockey rink, and what we are aiming to do here is to convert it into a all-season field house. So our shoulder season sports, soccer, football, field hockey, lacrosse, and it really, truly community space so that we could have half-field scrimmages and real workouts indoors. And then the northern end of the facility would be another basketball court because we're short. We really should have 5 basketball teams. We need a thirds boys basketball team, but we just can't do it with 1 court. So this would allow for both basketball and volleyball to have field house space. This is the southern looking view of the field house, which would have natural light coming into the turf field here. So that would be the conversion. This would be the new rink. So sitting currently on top of where our tennis courts are. Okay, next slide. And then the genius of this architecture, it took a long time for us to get here, is that at Millbrook we think a lot about adjacencies and how spaces actually create community. And this would, like the front of the athletic center currently does, where you can walk between or amongst squash, hockey, basketball within 150 feet, and that space in itself creates communities on Wednesday and Saturdays throughout the winter. This would do the same thing on the southern side of the building. So next slide, please. So this gives you a little sense of it. So this would actually look into our basketball court, over to the hockey rink, into the squash courts. So you'd have a thorough way of interaction between these events and amongst these events. Next slide. And then in our plans, and I have no idea about what the cost will be, our chapel's inhospitable right now, which is hard for me to even say because it's the center of all things at Millbrook School. But if you look at this photo, it gives you a little bit of what our assemblies look like. Our faculty right now on Mondays are on the steps of the chapel. They're outside of the building. So we can't even have a guest come in and be a part of the community. And we spend, Rev, how many minutes a week? 70 minutes a week in the chapel, roughly, 70, 75. So it's not that much time. And for years, all the way back to I want to say in the early 80s, for years, part of the strategic plan in the building on campus was to add some seating or some kind of expansion to the chapel, and it always gets pushed aside. And so many, well, it's 75 minutes. This may be some of the most important time that your children spend together in a community setting. There are fun skits and songs and all sorts of stuff, but there's really heavy moments too. Funerals. There are beautiful moments, weddings, and there are ceremonies like convocation, first night, last night. Thursday, as you know, we have chapel talks, and those are some of kind of the deepest, most community building moments at our school. So we're looking at right now, how can we get either creative internally, maybe push a little westward, some opportunities to be a little more hospitable in the chapel. All right, next slide. Okay, across the street, I'm throwing a lot at you here, but I want you to know what's on our mind. And when I think about aspiring to be excellent and the best ideal-sized boarding school in the United States of America, this is it. Across the street, we have 40,000 visitors a year at the Trevor Zoo. 40,000. We didn't charge a dime for those visitors until 10, 12 years ago. And we charge $3 or $5. It's really a small amount because we want it to be an accessible place. But it's become a real staple of the community. So, what have we done? I've said, why don't we create a position at Millbrook School where we have a director of philanthropy for the Trevor Zoo. Somebody who's not double dipping in our alumni body or our parent body, but actually pushing the community that so loves this place and this facility to help us bring it forward over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So we started to work with some architects about potential, these are all conceptual, potential visions for how we can evolve the zoo. So next slide. And really, and what you're going to see in the next couple of slides, we've been talking a lot about bringing the back of the house to the front of the house. So I grew up in a restaurant. My parents owned a bar restaurant. I can tell you stories about that for a long, long time. But this is like bringing, the kitchen out into the restaurant, which you've seen in a lot of modern restaurants. So showing the service that happens in the zoo with our students as a part of a visitor's experience. And then, of course, in terms of animal husbandry and care and quality of life for our animals, that they have better, more modern facilities. This is just getting crazy with otter exhibit. But hey, you never know. I'm telling you, I think there's a grandma, neighbor next door, all she cares about the animals, not her kids. She's going to want to take care of us. And then, just some sort of conceptual of like if we were to build a student center or a new tropical center, what that might look like in relationship to the rest of the school. Okay, next slide. This gives me a huge headache. As you know, you don't want to have text-heavy slides, but I thought this would be a worthwhile place to end. Because I shared with you the preface to a project of a new school that Edward Poling wrote in 1928. This is what he wrote next. And it is so relevant today as we think about the evolution of our program, of our plant, and the kind of people, the faculty, the students, families that we want to attract. School should be conservatively progressive. I'm doing what you should never do. Read a slide, right? But just let me do it. Conservative in that it will build upon the experiences of the past and will not assume, as some of the latest fattest schools seem to do, that the new methods are best simply because they are different from the old ones, or that the fundamental nature of the human race has so suddenly changed under the influence of our modern industrialism as to render obsolete all of the educational theory and practice of the past. It will rather recognize the fact that the boy of today is at bottom little different from the boy of preceding ages, and that consequently the basic values of education have also but slightly changed. So beautifully articulated in the sense of what we have to build upon. And then progressive, which was a very progressive notion in 1928. It's not going to adhere to tradition for tradition's sake, but that it will reject the old methods for which, this is key, experimentation has already shown there are no better substitutes. and that it will keep constantly in touch with contemporary educational developments, and that it will attempt to educate its boys as realistically as possible. That is to say, in shaping the ideals of the school and planning the methods by which they can be realized, the actual conditions of life in college and the world at large will be kept in mind, not life as it was or as it perhaps ought to be, but as it is here and now. So this tension is the roots of Millbrook School. This is it. And very relevant today, very much alive in the way that we think today. And this document, along with our mission and others, is something that we revisit regularly as we think about our evolution, our changing, and our aspiration to be as excellent and as extraordinary as we can be. So that's it. Okay. It's dangerous when I go unscripted. Any questions? Do you have any energy? We're going to have a little break soon. And then what we'll do is have Eliza Chapman, J.J. Morrissey, Anna Birnbaum, and Patrice King come in and talk with you a little bit about Res Life. But if you have any burning questions that might be helpful to the whole of the community or the group, please. You're welcome.
What is the time frame, if any, on the expansion of the athletic center?
We could go to construction documents as soon as we raise the money. It's a big one. It's the biggest mountain that we're ever really have attempted to climb in terms of one facility. So the estimators say it's probably a $55 million project. It might be able to move in a phase or two. And so right now we look at the dormitory as the absolute priority, just because we're paying a little rent on farmhouse that we shouldn't pay, and it's not really what we want in terms of facilities across. So that's number one priority. But simultaneously, we're going to push hard to raise the money for the athletic center. I'd love to get that moving. The end goal is to get all of this done by our centennial, and then throw a huge party, and then keep getting better. Thank you for that question. Please.
So I know there's a huge focus on facilities, and understandably so, but I feel like you really hit on it when you said the teachers are the thing.
Yep.
And so I think it would be great to have another dorm for obvious reasons. Is there any move in any of the private schools to really work on improving the salaries of the teachers and focusing on fundraising efforts to promote higher, retention rates?
Totally.
Pull people in who might not want to be in private equity, and focus on the things that really matter, which are the teachers and not the facilities so much.
Yeah. Well, I think the answer is yes. So the question is there a move across independent schools, move at Millbrook School to really focus, which, I did share with you, on our teaching faculty and maybe creating a career where you can live a life of dignity, right, from start to end. And the answer is yes. And the way that we see it, it's either going to come from two revenue streams, right? It's one, tuition, and no one in here wants tuition to keep going up at the rate that it has been going. And then two, it's endowing funds. So if we're going to raise compensation and benefits to sort of, as we benchmark across peer groups, it's going to come from endowment, and that's how we're going to do it sustainably. And that's a goal of ours as we move forward. But like I said, it's really interesting. It's not necessarily salaries and benefits, which ours are pretty good across our peers. What teachers want is a place to live in that's sort of dignified. And the dormitory, again, it will also get 4 faculty homes that will be lovely and places people want to live. And it's growth. It's opportunities to, if I could snap my fingers and the dream would come true, anyone who walks in and says, John, I love teaching science here and I want my PhD. And, on our salary, I can't afford to take out those loans. I'd love to snap it done. Millbrook School's taking care of that for you. That would be an amazing place to work, especially for people who are lifelong learners and really dedicated to education. So, yes, and thank you for that question. All right, let's stretch the legs. Oh, we got one more.
Question, would you be willing to take on debt for something like this, or you have to raise the money?
Yeah, we've looked at a sort of a debt endowment ratio. We have debt at Millbrook School, so we have roughly $25 million of debt on a $75 million endowment. Our discipline's been kind of 1 to 3, so we're not in kind of the frame of mind to say, okay, I'm ready to go with this now. And yet, if the cash were cheap and the rates were low and it made some sense to make those moves.
That equity that you wanted to get to, or like to raise on that, or?
Yeah, so if we raise the endowment, we're at 120, I think we'd probably, revisit that question of like, will we take on more debt? We probably could do that in a prudent way. Yeah, I appreciate that question. All right, stretch the legs. We're going to be back in 20 minutes, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.